Hey everyone, welcome to Off Kilter Homestead. This is Hoss. I realize that I haven't ever given you any type of background to why we exist, why we are doing this type of thing, and even how I came up with our slogan or mantra or whatever you want to call it, our life phrase, if you will. It started with us back in 2010, 2011, somewhere like that. We were up in North Carolina where I was going to college for youth ministry. And before we moved up there from Florida, we went and we bought a mobile home outright. That way we didn't have to worry about rent when we were up there. All we had to worry about was lot rent, which was cheap, and electric and water, which was cheap. We moved up there and we were doing really good. Then somewhere in the middle of my sophomore year, there was a tree fall on our house. It wasn't storming, it was a little bit windy that day, but a tree fell on the house. We were very close to being homeless and just having to come back home. Not something we wanted to do. We went up there with a purpose. We wanted to fulfill that purpose and then move on. We were very close. There were people up there trying to help us out. North Carolina became home while we were up there. We loved all those people. We still do. We're still in contact. We still go visit. But we were very close to being homeless. And one day at church, I knew the name, but I hadn't been able to put name to face yet. Walked up to us, Miss Billy Sue, and she goes, "We have a second house and we want you to come live in it." And we were blown away. We're like, oh man, this is incredible. And so we moved in. They had a house. Her and her husband Butch had a house right next door. They owned, and they were just kind of using it for storage. They weren't really using it for much. And so over the next week, maybe they cleaned that out, and we went over and we moved in and we lived there. And about that time, while we were living there, we started really convicting. We really want to be able to help somebody like this. We don't know if we're ever going to be able to give somebody a home. We don't know if we're ever going to be to that point, but we wanted to be able to help out in some way. And Hannah and I began thinking about different ways that we can help people. And we remembered when we were first married, there was a really nice guy going through some really hard times with money, and we bought him groceries. And we're like, that felt really good, and maybe feeding somebody is a way that we can help. And so we started thinking about different ways, and we're college students. I was part-time ministry. Hannah was working at a daycare. It's not like we had money to just go and buy families groceries. And so we started kind of at that point really putting small ideas into the incubator and started mulling them over and kind of figuring out how we wanted to do all this stuff. And so what ended up coming of it was we decided that we wanted to be able to feed not only us but somebody else. We started getting into learning more about gardening, and we get out to Montana around all those farmers, and we're like, well, this is kind of cool, and you can do this and this and this. Then we moved to Florida, just kind of on a whim. We're like, hey, why don't we have a garden? We could grow this, and then we're not going to be able to eat all that stuff. Both my grandma's garden. My one grandma really gardened. She had a very large garden. I remember going over and snapping beans and all that stuff with her. And so, I wish I would have had this desire much younger before she passed to really glean a lot from her in this area. She had so much knowledge, and I was just into sports at the time. I didn't really, care about gardening, so I'll come help you snap beans, but I really don't care to learn. I'll just go buy my food. And so I wish I would have been able to have the desire at that point in my life before she passed away. Once we were back in Florida working at a camp, we really began to understand more of what we wanted to do. We wanted to have a garden and help people. And then I found a nonprofit out of Kansas City called Urban Farming Guys. And I found them through looking on how to raise my own morel mushrooms. I grew up hunting them up in Indiana, love them. I enjoyed hunting them, but they don't grow down here. It's just too hot. So I found them and I started seeing all that they were doing, and it was ridiculous at how much they were able to help people on such a small area. And I'm like, it blew my mind. And I'm like, that's what we got to do. We have to be able to grow our own food, obviously self-sufficiency, because if we're not good, we can't help others be good. So we got to take care of number one, and then out of our abundance, we want to be able to help others. And so that was really where it began. We had all this stuff happen to us. We saw people helping us left and right, and we knew we wanted to help. But until we were able to put a face or a pointed goal on how we wanted to help somebody, we weren't even able to make plans on what we truly wanted to do. And so once I saw the urban farming guys, it was like a light bulb was turned on. I'm like, I got it. I understand now. We began making plans and kind of deciding what we wanted to do and how we wanted to do it. We knew we didn't want to be in Florida forever, and we still don't. We're still here, but eventually we're going to get up north. There's maybe 2, possibly 3 states we're looking at moving to. And so once we get our teacher's license, I mean, we'll really be off running. So when I lost the job at camp, it forced us to look at ourselves in a new, deeper way. I got a job at Tractor Supply, started working with this girl named Sheila. She turned me on to Florida Urban Homesteading nonprofit, and I got in there and I was just devouring all this information, making relationships. Within about 6 months, they put me on their admin team, which made me laugh because, you know, I'm an admin on a homesteading group, and I don't have a homestead. And then eventually they put me on the board of the homes of the nonprofit, which made me laugh even more because now I'm on the board of a nonprofit and I don't have any chickens, or I don't barely have a garden, and it made me laugh. But making the relationships I did with them, it further cemented in what we could really do with homesteading and how we could really help somebody. And so I was on the forklift unloading a truck one day, and I was just thinking I needed to have a goal to reach toward and something to always remind myself about that. And so I wanted to come up with like a slogan or something, and that's how we got be self-sufficient, help everyone you can, inconvenience no one. All 3 of those things are very important to us. Be self-sufficient because we didn't want to have to rely on anybody else. But we lost the job at camp. We also lost our home. And that lit a fire under me I never want to be in that place where everything in my life is totally reliant on one person. And so if I can be as self-sufficient as possible, I don't have to worry about that. If I lose a job, it's okay. You know, my whole world's not going to be turned upside down. I can get another job. But I'm not going to lose my home, and I'm not going to lose everything else. I'm not going to lose, have less food on the table because one person decided to end that. So be self-sufficient. Help everyone you can. That is at the heart of what we are. We want to help somebody, not for any kind of public notoriety or pat on the backs from people, but because we have a genuine desire to help those, to take those who maybe are or were in the same place that we were in, where we had nothing and we were on the verge of homelessness and all this stuff, and to help them. And so one way we're going to do that is once we get everything up and running, and the garden's definitely going to happen before the livestock stuff happens, we want to be able to get all the food that we need to from the garden and then bring another family in, and over the next year teach them everything we've learned, and then turn them off and have them do the same thing. And when they're done with us over that year, I would like to be able to be like, all right, so here's our gift to you. Not only do you get this knowledge of things that we've learned or mistakes that we've had, but we're going to set you up with your own raised bed gardens, and we're going to give you a gift certificate to Mary's Heirloom Seeds, and you go on there and you get what you want, and you do everything that you need to do to set up your own. Then within 3 years, I want you to do the same thing for another family. Just like we're doing with you, we want you to do with another family. And our hopes is that that begins to spread out, even if it's just within our community. Our hope is that our helping and our living self-sufficiently will kind of carry on, and not just with us but with others, and then multiplied by them helping others. And then inconvenience no one. That is us to a fault. Sometimes we won't do something in it knowing it'll hurt us because we don't want to inconvenience somebody else. That was important for us to put in there because, you know, we've gone through some pretty painful lessons, and we don't want to ever cause those lessons on somebody else, whether it's, you know, going into debt to helping somebody. And that was an important part of why we worded it the way we did, where we didn't just say help everyone. It's help everyone you can. Sometimes you can't help everyone. Sometimes you have to be able to just say no, and our nature is just to help. And sometimes we have to realize, hey, maybe you're not helping, or maybe you are helping, but it's gonna hurt you severely to help. And I'm okay with sacrifice to help, but what we have learned is we can't put ourselves through devastation to help somebody else. And so when it comes to being an inconvenience, if we're gonna do something that will hinder somebody else's growth, we don't want to do that. All right, so those are the big reasons as to why Off Kilter exists. Obviously, there's going to be a lot of background information that you don't have, so you're never going to truly understand how we ended up here. But I hope you can see where we're going with this, and what we want to accomplish with this. And just as a fun side thing, is we're talking about where we're going as a homestead, and you know, all of the dreams that we have for this, you know, little operation. My ultimate goal, and Hannah laughs at me and even makes fun of me a little bit, and that's okay. You see this one, well, maybe it's on this side, I don't know, one little white hair. I don't like gray in my hair up here, but I was stoked when I saw a white hair in my beard, because it is my dream to be a mall Santa. And I have already planned out how I'm, and not necessarily mall, but just Santa in general, one of Santa's helpers. You know, I want to have an earpiece in where the elf that is, you know, helping corral the kids up to come tell me what they want for Christmas can tell me their name and everything like that, so I can greet the kids with their name before they even get to me. And I just want to make that experience as magical as possible. And one way that I want to do this is, once we get up to wherever we're going and we get established and we get our, you know, our rotation of a cow a year and all that fun stuff going on, I've really been researching getting reindeer. So one day, Off Kilter Homestead will have a couple reindeer to where I can maybe take them, you know, take a day off teaching and go to the elementary, and Santa will come up to your school in a reindeer-driven sleigh, and you'll get to talk to Santa. To me, that's just really cool. That farthest fetched dream I could think of. But if I could do that, oh man, I would be beyond happy. So I'll leave you with that as some background to why Off Kilter exists and how we plan on big goals anyway in the future. I do plan on bringing you along, and that's the purpose of this channel, not Off Kilter, but this channel, is so you guys can kind of see how as we're learning all this stuff and how we can grow. Maybe you'll join us and you'll do the same thing and you'll get there a whole lot faster than us, and that's awesome. Let me know. I want to follow you. I want to encourage you, and maybe I'll learn from you as you surpass us, because as you have noticed, we tend to move kind of slow around here. Anyways, remember, be self-sufficient, help everyone you can, inconvenience no one. Y'all have a good day. Thanks. Bye.